A note to listeners, the following podcast contains content that may not be suitable for all audiences.
I mean, it may come out in the end I am completely wrong, but there's never been a word mentioned to me, so much as a word, about Jesse being involved in any of this. I will be very, very shocked if when it all comes out, and it will, that he had anything to do with it. I can't be mad about the blog, and I can't be mad about, anything that's going on right now, because it's all just gotten, the tips are coming in again. Everything slowed down for about a year.
Yeah.
When we kind of decided that, right now we just really have, didn't really have anything else to tell at the time. We got a lot of information from multiple people saying that Jason Dillard had told Con to pick up Colt and bring him to him. And, Stormy stated that Jason had tried to take her a few times and Colt had told her to get out of town, which she did. It's very likely that that's who should have been with Colt and not Molly.
You are listening to Partners in True Crime. We are your hosts, Rob and Cindy Dorfman. Hi, everyone. If you're enjoying the podcast, please leave us a review wherever you listen to your podcasts, even if it's one word.
And please subscribe to our website, www.partnersintruecrime. Follow us on TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram to check out our weekly promos. We're also now on YouTube at Partners in True Crime. If you subscribe to our website, you'll be getting weekly emails from us and all kinds of promotions and things that we don't advertise on the podcast.
We have a big announcement for our listeners today. Starting tomorrow, and then every Thursday, Partners in True Crime will be launching a new podcast.
It's an amazing true crime story that lives in infamy. My Uncle's Escaped Alcatraz will explore the story of two brothers who came from a family of 14 children, poor as dirt, but extremely resourceful. They became petty thieves to survive.
Their stealing eventually led to bigger heists, like bank robbery, but they kept getting caught and thrown in prison. That's when their true skills emerged, breaking out of prisons.
John and Clarence Anglin's story is something out of a movie. In fact, a movie was made based on their escape starring Clint Eastwood, but it didn't tell the real story.
Starting Thursday, April 19th, we will hear the true story of the escape from Alcatraz, from John and Clarence Anglin's nephew. If you think you know what happened, let me tell you, there's way more to the story, so check it out on partnersintruecrime.com for the audio version and on YouTube for the video version.
Today we're checking in with Paula Fielder again to see what she thinks about some of the news that's been happening regarding Molly and Colt's disappearance. So let's hear what she has to say.
All right, so this week we got Paula back on, and the reason we have Paula back on is there's been a lot of information that's been flying around, regarding to the Jesse thing and the Jackie thing and new information. Stormy has been talking. I think we've kind of shook up the little hornet's nest that's been going on there. But now I think at a point now, we're not 100% sure, but I think we can kind of put the Jesse thing to bed right now, even though we don't have definitive information about any of this. But I think everything's pointing to the fact that Jesse more than likely didn't have anything to do with his brother's death or Molly's death. The investigation's still going on. The BIA is still working on it and hopefully looking at getting permission to search all those properties. We don't know when that's going to happen, but that needs to happen. But Paula, I just wanted to ask you what you think about all this resurgence of the information coming from the blog we already know now has been taken down. They took it down themselves, and they put out a statement basically saying they turned over all their information to law enforcement. I'm guessing they probably turned it over to the OSBI and maybe some of the other local departments. But interested in hearing your take on all this, and how does it make you feel?
Well, I just find the timing was rather suspicious to me, to be quite honest. But I don't know what the point of that blog to begin with was, other than to shed light on someone other than the last person that we know that was with Molly and Colt. I don't have any suspicion that Jesse had anything to do with this. It may come out in the end I am completely wrong, but there's never been a word mentioned to me, so much as a word, about Jesse being involved in any of this. I will be very, very shocked if when it all comes out, and it will, that he had anything to do with it. Of course, he's friends with a lot of the same people. I don't know if that's the connection in there. Irregardless, I guess I'm glad it's down. I really don't care one way or another. I never read it. Some people, felt the need to share some snippets of it with me, but for the most part, I don't really know what it said other than place the blame on Jesse and my investigative skills, and we both know that that's minimal because I am not an investigator. I'm just a family member just trying to find answers, as to what happened to my cousin. So anyway, it's neither here nor there to me, honestly.
Okay, well, I'm glad that the blog is down because I don't think it helps anyone to have a blog out there that's blatantly blaming someone when there's no evidence to back it up. It takes the spotlight off of other suspects who have been involved, and their names have come up multiple times over the years and in all the paperwork and all the documents. And it also kind of makes people believe that the case is solved when it's not.
I had multiple people say to me, well, isn't he in prison for this? And I'm like, no. Nothing related to Molly and COLT'S disappearance. I don't understand where that came from. That people, and a lot of people, thought that the case was solved and that Jesse went to prison for it.
Yeah.
When it's all a matter of public record. All people had to do was look it up. Jesse is not in prison for anything related to his brother or Molly's disappearance. So that kind of, I don't know what was said in the blog that led people to believe that, but several people did, which was very confusing to me.
Yeah, well, he made a legal case. He literally, I don't know how many pages was it?
Oh, he even had a section called Cain and Abel, and he detailed how Jesse, the motive for Jesse was this love triangle that he created between Geraldine, Colt, and Jesse, and then basically drew pictures of what an army chokehold is.
No, they actually weren't. They were photographs.
Photographs.
They were photographs from a army manual on how to choke someone out, do like a rear naked choke from behind, and how Jesse would have choked out his...
There's no evidence of that.
Right.
Nobody knows how either one of them died.
No.
Right.
We've got multiple tips on different ways that they were killed. I don't think that I recall anything about strangulation, for one. It's always been mainly that they were shot or overdosed. There have been others, but never do I ever recall that somebody ever said that Colt was strangled.
Nope.
How would you know? The bodies have never been found.
Exactly. I don't. That's just asinine, honestly. I think to even suggest that.
I just think the danger with that blog is the fact that you have someone who's claiming to be working with the OSBI and claiming to be law enforcement, and you have an attorney writing that blog. So people who don't know the case and don't know all the things that have happened over the years and don't know all the details and don't know the story.
Well, I know that I did speak with the Attorney General's office regarding this recently, and the person that I spoke with was forwarding the blog and some other information onto the department head that needed the information, because in their opinion the blog was unethical on the part of the attorney who participated in that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Also, some of the text messages that were sent to you, Rob, and Cindy, and so they have that information, and they're looking into that. So I don't know what the legalities of him doing that are as far as his license is concerned, but they've got the information and they can do with it what they want.
Yeah. As long as the stuff has been taken down, that's the important thing. It was an unnecessary piece of propaganda that was biased and really wasn't factually based, because it was 99% of the information that they got from that blog was from Jackie, and it was from Jackie's information, his quote unquote investigation of Jesse. And we talked to a bunch of people about that. We even talked to the Ringland Chief Police. Via emails, and he pretty much stated in his email that he knows nothing about Molly and COLT'S investigation, and that Jackie was doing that on his own, and that he only knows about what Jesse was arrested for. And what I thought was really interesting is, I don't know who said it, but they said that Jesse, when he was taken into custody, that he was like very kind of ominous, threatening, and I think he said they had a knife or something.
Oh, no, that was speaking of a former... That person was talking about something that happened with Jesse in 2007.
Oh, okay.
Stating that he had gone into a police department and threatened a 911 operator or threatened a peace officer.
Okay, so I stand corrected.
When we spoke...
Didn't the chief of police, though, that was written in his sister's blog, or her I don't know if you want to call it a blog or a post or whatever, that happened, and didn't... And
then the chief of police said to me...
Didn't the chief of police clarify it with you that that's not what happened?
Well, yes, the chief of police said to me in an email that Jesse, when he was arrested in 2007, walked in with wide eyes, confused, and did not fight back when he was arrested. He complied with the arrest.
Yeah, that's what I remember reading.
Yeah, once again, just a little bit of information. Listen, we know everybody's emotions are very high on this case, and I understand family members getting upset and not knowing what happened to their family members. But what's interesting is, since we've spoken to Jesse, and what I want to ask your feedback too is, we sent that Jesse's interview to Lisa Rubikoff, which we had on last week, and she did a deception analysis of Jesse's interview. What did you think on what she said?
It was very interesting, as it was when she actually went over another recording that we had her do previously. I found her responses to him interesting, and it's what a lot of people who have responded to his interviews have said. They're like, that guy's not lying. He's too on point with the information he's giving. No hesitation, about date and that type of thing. The only thing that's ever really confused me about Jesse and his information that we've gotten is him not really remembering where he was when Colt went missing. He thought he was in jail. He was very good with date. However, that date slipped his mind, and that kind of concerned me. However, I think we kind of went over this, and we kind of discussed and made sense of it recently, but I'm at a loss right now as to the reasoning behind it. And I know he was on a lot of drugs at the time. He was using, and he went to prison, I believe it was right after, or in October after they went missing. So I was really interested in what she had to say about all of that. And I too believe him. Even with that, I believe Jesse is telling the truth.
If anybody can prove otherwise, we'd be happy to hear that.
Exactly. That's the thing. We're not saying that we know for a fact Jesse didn't do this. We're just saying that there was no evidence to prove that he did this, and to have a blog out there stating that he is guilty of this and that he went to prison for this when he didn't was wrong. But that's not saying that we know who did it, because we don't.
Nope.
Right.
Nope.
The biggest thing for me with Jesse, and it's not even so much him telling his story, to be quite honest. The biggest thing with Jesse is never in 10 years had I ever heard his name brought up in this case, in their disappearance, or that he had anything to do with it. Never, ever. So set aside anything that he even put out there on the podcast. I don't believe it, just simply because I never heard his name brought up, and the people that we suspect are more involved in it would not cover for him.
Right. That's why I don't think that he did it, because I never have seen one stitch of paperwork or anything, any statements or anything that have mentioned him. And I don't believe anyone would have covered for him for a decade. I don't believe that. I don't believe that at all.
I know what all of the families involved have gone through. I know what we're all going through. Even the people, not the victims' families, but the people that, are the families of the suspects or people of interest. I know those families have had to go through hell over this. So they're not going to go through hell over this for Jesse Haynes.
Yeah.
No.
That is my opinion. I wouldn't. And then I still go back to, I was thinking about this yesterday. I still go back to the day that me and Misty and my sister went to Con's house. And that was Labor Day week in 2013. And I remember his response like it was yesterday. I'm like, just please. I kept telling him, just please tell us where she's at, And he teared up and said, I don't want to go to jail.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I said, well, I don't want you to go to jail either. You could tell he was so conflicted, because to me, it really felt like he wanted to say what was on his mind. I mean, he was thinking hard on it. But if Jennifer, his aunt, had not been there, I believe Con would have spoke. Me and Misty have talked about this many times. We both believe that Con would have spoke that day. She made it very clear that I'm present, keep your mouth shut. That's how it felt. That's how that whole thing went down. That's how it felt. Is like when she stood up, when I'm asking him this, and then he responded that way. When she stood up and she came over and stood beside him and put her shoulder next to his shoulder, touching, I was watching that thinking, well, this is over. He's not going to say anything. I don't know. And, she lied about something as simple as knowing who Nick Huffaker was. Because I asked, because I didn't really know all these people. I knew these names, but I didn't know these people. I just knew these names from the people who were giving us information. I asked her and Con both that they knew who Nick Huffaker was. And they both said no. And I actually said, who is Nick Huffaker? And they both said that they didn't know him. And I said, well, Jennifer, I'm the one who was standing in the woods with Colby and Nick during one of our searches. And you walked into the woods to tell Colby you were leaving. That was me in the woods with them. I said, Nick Huffaker was standing there, and you're telling me you don't know who he is? She's like, oh, that is Colby's first cousin.
Colby, who she was dating forever. Or wasn't she married to him or something?
Who?
Jennifer.
She was with Colby.
Right.
Yes.
So how would she not know that Nick Huffaker was Colby's first cousin?
He did. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
Is that what? Why was she lying about that? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That was that was something that didn't even need to be lied about unless there's a reason to distance yourself from that person. So it was very odd to me. I've thought about that before. Lots of times it's like, why would they lie about knowing who Nick was? That makes no sense to me. And then you think about him telling those people at his girlfriend's house, we took out the trash. And I think that's why I was asking them, is because we had just recently gotten that tip that he had said that when they had a party over at his girlfriend's house. Mm-hmm. And it came on the news about Molly and Colt. And he stepped out of the kitchen into the living room where the TV was and said, yeah, we took out the trash.
And there was a few people that had heard him say that, wasn't there?
Yes.
Because I saw multiple statements from people.
And the one who gave the information that he said that was Annette.
Really?
Yeah. And I don't want to say her first name because she's not involved in this. And I don't want to put her involved in this. You know what I mean?
No.
But she was there and she heard it and she told her mom. And her mom's the one who put the information out there for us to know. You know what I mean?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, looking at the beginning, going back to the beginning, because I think that's where we always have to go with this. I mean, I personally don't think Jesse did anything, and I don't think he had anything to do with this. So going back to the beginning, there's no documents or no statements or no tips. I mean, I have been through thousands and thousands of tips, as you have. I haven't seen one tip saying, it's Colt's brother. Go to Colt's brother. I mean, there's none.
I know.
So that to me says no. My gut says no. I mean, I don't know 100%, but I'm just going to say that's my opinion. I don't think Jesse had anything to do with this. But going back to the beginning, the people that were coming up over and over again still seem to be coming up over and over again throughout the papers and throughout the statements and throughout the witness testimonies. And
I want to talk a little bit about that when we kind of talk about Stormy. But something that just came up that reminded, I don't know if I told you this, Paula. When Cindy and I were speaking with Jesse, we had numerous phone calls with him. Mm-hmm. And there was one time he called us and he said that there was someone inside prison with him who wanted to talk to us and had, wanted to share what information that he heard.
Yes.
And we spoke to this gentleman. I can't even remember his name, but he is someone who grew up in that area, knew all the players, knew all of them personally. Mm-hmm. And based upon what he heard, it kind of aligned with those early stories, and it also aligned with how they dispose of their bodies. Yeah. And he was pretty on point with everything. And so I thought that was really interesting. And he volunteered to talk to us. You know,
Right.
because he saw Jesse in there, and they started talking, and because they're from the same area, they weren't friends, but they knew the same people. And
Right.
I got, obviously, when you're in prison, you look for any kind of allies, and he reached out to Jesse, and we spoke to him, and he was pretty forthright with that information, and it kind of
And
aligned.
he was in jail when Joe Russell was still the sheriff, correct? Is
Correct.
that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
I recall this story. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That was just a couple of weeks ago.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Once
Yeah.
again, you're someone who ran with those people.
Well, he didn't, right?
Well, he ran in that same crowd of people. He weren't
Right.
not specifically, but in that culture. I should say that culture.
Yeah, because he didn't he didn't know who the people were. He was like, I don't know who these
Yeah.
people are. I don't know these names.
Wasn't there somebody that got pulled out of their cell and taken to be questioned during that time? And when he came back, the inmate came back, he told what he told them?
Yes.
Told law enforcement?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So someone had been pulled out by law enforcement, gave them information, and then when the guy came back in, this gentleman was sitting there, and he told them that he had heard about what he had told the police.
Right. Yeah.
Which are the same names that we've heard from the beginning.
Yes. What I do, the blog, the podcast, everything that's going on right now has just regenerated the case, though. So I can't be mad about it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I can't be mad about the blog, and I can't be mad about, anything that's going on right now, because it's all just gotten, the tips are coming in again.
Mm-hmm.
Everything slowed down for about a year.
Yeah.
When we kind of decided that, right now we just really have, didn't really have anything else to tell at the time. So
No, and they had all the information, but just so
Yeah.
the listeners know, just because we weren't broadcasting or producing new podcasts, we were still getting information, and we were still filtering that to the BIA. So that's why, but we were just letting them do their thing, and we still let them do their things. And like I said, we still get information, and it's as simple as just forwarding it over to them. This person said this. Here they have this information. Someone mentioned
it, like I said, it's regenerated a lot of information, and including, okay, so Cindy, you have a copy of all my Facebook messages that
Yes.
I've gotten since 2013.
Yes.
So
I know.
There's
Thousands and thousands.
And
I'm buried in here. I mean,
Yes.
you should see my office.
I forget some of the tips that came in and who they came from and names and that type of thing, because there's so many. And but since we started back up the podcast and this new information's coming out and stuff, we got that tip, the girl who gave me the tip previously back in, I think it was 2014 or so, that she actually gave me the tip originally. And she came back and said, hey, she typed out the very same thing that she had told me previously.
And we're talking 10 years later.
Yes.
That's the thing. It's like someone gives you a tip in 2014. Do you remember what you did in 2014? Because I don't. So 10 years later.
Yeah, but it happened in 2013.
Right.
Before Con went to prison, because she was out there at Con's house. So, so she gave this information, and very, very, very detailed information. And then I posted the BIA's information on Molly's page, and she actually forwarded the information. Although I'd already forwarded it to the BIA, this is firsthand knowledge. She was out there. She knows what she saw. And this type of thing. So anyway, she forwarded that information straight on to the BIA. So it's been very beneficial in that, and anybody else who previously gave me information that doesn't seem like I followed through. In those early days, I was so confused. I did not, all I knew is I was running around like a chicken with my head cut off, just, searching and talking to people and looking. Me and Misty and Mandy were just going nuts and literally going crazy. We felt like we were going crazy. It was so consuming. I know back then I didn't none of these names really registered to me for a long time because I knew none of these people. So if anybody had sent me a message that they feel like that I did not take seriously enough, send it to me again, because, now it may make a lot more sense to me than it did in 2013 or 2014.
Well, you were ground floor. And you were thrown into a situation, an area that you're semi-familiar with, people you're not familiar with. You were also looking towards the local law enforcement for some guidance. You were giving them information and evidence, sometimes evidence, and other people were giving them evidence. And some of it made it and some of it didn't.
I'm telling you, such a huge, huge, huge regret.
And there's still evidence out there. There's still, there's still, you still have to go back. There's a whole slew of stuff that you haven't gotten back to that area to retrieve. People have evidence that they want to give to you, and you just haven't had time to do it, or there's just been schedules have been off, and people are ill, and so it's like there's still stuff to look through.
Yeah.
Well, let's shift over to Stormy real quick. Let's talk about her for a little bit, because she's someone who you've been telling us about her for a while.
Hello, partners in true crime. How many of you have become skeptical about custom beauty? I get it. My feed is flooded with customize this, personalize that, all promising to fix my dry skin, split ends, fine lines. But when Prose says custom, they actually mean it. It's not a gimmick. Your formula couldn't exist without you.
Each and every bottle of Prose custom hair and skincare is made to order and personalize with a unique blend of naturally powerful and proven effective ingredients to meet your needs. Their in-depth consultation analyzes over 80 factors for a complete view of your life and beauty goals.
They get personal. Prose covers everything from your concerns to diet, exercise, and stress levels to uncover what's impacting your hair and skin health. They even asked me my zip code to understand how the UV index, water hardness, and the hot, dry desert weather where I live impacts me.
Next, they recommend a full routine of truly personalized products, which are only produced after I place my order. Nothing pre-mixed, nothing off the shelf.
And I know from experience that one-of-a-kind formulas equal 1 in a million results. We have really hard water at our house, and since I switched to Prose, I've noticed a complete difference. My hair is softer and stronger, and most importantly, it's not breaking.
But don't just take Cindy's word for it. In a third-party, double-blind, dermatologist-supervised controlled clinical study, aka the gold standard in research studies, Prose proved that personalization works better than off-the-shelf alternatives.
Try it for yourself and get your healthiest hair in 30 days, or your money back.
Prose is so confident that you'll love your results that they're offering our listeners an exclusive trial offer so you can see the difference custom care can make. 50% off your first subscription order at prose.com/PITC.
That's prose.com/PITC for your free consultation and 50% off of your one-of-a-kind formula. prose.com/PITC.
Cindy, don't you want to eat stress-free this spring with Factor's delicious, ready-to-eat meals? Every fresh, never-frozen meal is chef-crafted, dietitian-approved, and ready to eat in just 2 minutes.
Choose from a weekly menu of 35 options, including popular choices like Calorie Smart, Keto, Protein Plus, or Vegan and Veggie. Also discover more than 60 add-ons every week like breakfast, on-the-go lunch snacks, and beverages to help you stay fueled and feel good all day. What are you waiting for? Get started today and fuel up on your springtime goals.
Cindy's always worried about what I'm eating, which is why I love Factor, because you can get chef-prepared meals on the table in 2 minutes with Factor's ready-to-eat meals.
Looking for gourmet meals? Try meals that feature premium ingredients like filet mignon, truffle butter, broccolini, and asparagus.
No fuss, no messy meals. Factor meals eliminate the hassle of prepping, cooking, or cleaning. Simply heat and savor the good stuff.
Tailor to your schedule, customize weekly meals with the flexibility to get as much as you need. Pause or schedule deliveries to suit your lifestyle.
Factor is your solution for fast, premium meals without the need for cooking.
We're celebrating Earth Day all month long. Look for Earth Month Eats badge on the menu for our lowest carbon footprint meals.
Head to factormeals.com/PITC50 and use code PITC50 to get 50% off your first box, plus 20% off your next box while your subscription is active.
Hey, it's Kaylee Cuoco for Priceline. Ready to go to your happy place for a happy price? Well, why didn't you say so? Just download the Priceline app right now and save up to 60% on hotels. So whether it's Cousin Kevin's Kazoo Concert in Kansas City, go Kevin, or Becky's Bachelorette Bash in Bermuda, you never have to miss a trip ever again. So download the Priceline app today. Your savings are waiting.
Go to your happy place for a happy price. Go to your happy price, Priceline.
And you said that, listen, I don't want her involved at all. And just she's getting her life back together. And I know she has information and she's told me stuff, but I don't want her out there. And then after Jesse's both of his podcasts, she called you right away and she goes, I want to talk.
Well, actually, it was actually after she read what Jesse's sister put out that she contacted me, and we've been talking. I've been talking to Stormy off and on since 2013, and even when she was in prison, I communicated with her aunt Teresa. So I have stayed in the know about Stormy since 2013, and then when she got out of prison, and we reconnected, and we've talked, oh gosh, for a few years. She's 6 years clean and sober. She has no desire to go back to that lifestyle, none whatsoever. She don't even have the craving. That's why I was trying to protect her, because I was terrified that it would set her back. You know what I mean? I don't want to do that to anybody, no matter how beneficial they could be to the case.
No.
I don't want to ever be the reason somebody's sobriety is tampered with. I don't want to do that.
No.
So we've been, we've communicated, and we've become fairly close, and she texts me or calls me almost every other day.
Mm-hmm.
So I know a lot of people, and I knew it was going to be controversial when Stormy came on the podcast, because I know the reputation that she had prior to Molly and Colt going missing, and even thereafter. I knew what people said about her. I knew when she was on Facebook, begging people to tell her where he's at and this type of thing. I know people would contact me and say, hey, don't listen to her. She's crazy. She wasn't crazy. She had a drug addiction, and that's what you were seeing. That's what we were reading, was her addiction. And that's how I feel about that. So I give everybody a chance. I've got addicts in my own family, so I know what this can do to a person. And I listened to Stormy because I knew that she had information that I thought she would have information, because she was so entrenched in that world. And she can tell you a lot about that world and the people in it.
Yeah.
But she doesn't have any firsthand knowledge of this, and I believe her 100%. I believe that she does.
Well, she did have when she saw them in the truck.
Right.
So
right. She saw them leave together.
Yeah, in that white truck.
And she questions herself. She doesn't recall who the driver of that truck was. The driver of that truck was Molly's boyfriend, Tanner Skelton, at the time. They broke up. The last time we know that Molly was with Tanner was July the 3rd. That we know of now. But back to Stormy, I'm very grateful that she came on and said the things that she said. And she has a heart of gold. She means well, and she's not out to hurt anybody. She just wants the answers just like everybody else.
Yeah.
So,
and I think what's really interesting about Stormy, and I'm so happy she finally spoke publicly, is because we've heard her name thousands of times, and we've always known that Stormy was dating Colt. And multiple people have told us this. And Molly was dating Tanner. So Molly and Colt weren't a couple. Like they might have just met and had an attraction, or there was a flirtation, but they weren't like in a romantic relationship at the time.
I think it was more than likely it was mostly Molly. She was 17, he was 21. She just infatuated with him, an older boy, and he was handsome.
Mm-hmm.
So I think she probably tagged along. Her friend Jessica had told me that when Molly and Colt left that morning, that she begged Molly not to go with Con and Colt, that Molly was bound and determined to go. So she went. And
what do you think about when Stormy said that it more than likely could have been her instead of Molly? What do you think about that?
I think it's possible, and here's why. In the very first week, 2 weeks or so, the big question for everybody was, why was Colt and Con together? And we got a lot of information from multiple people saying that Jason Dillard had told Con to pick up Colt and bring him to him. And, Stormy stated that Jason had tried to take her a few times, and Colt had told her to get out of town, which she did. It's very likely that that's who should have been with Colt and not Molly. And I don't know, the reasoning that we were given behind Jason wanting Colt was over drugs, something to do with a drug situation. And that's what we were told in the early days, that's the reason that Colt was picked up by Con.
Yeah.
Want to state that, before I forget this, I want to say that Jason didn't have any dealings with these people, but I witnessed that firsthand, that he does. And I saw it with my own eyes. It was the day the car was found, and Colby Barrick was stalking us, and he was sitting across the road from us off of Oswald. We were on Pike, and we were waiting for law enforcement to show up to show us where they found the car. And Kobe was sitting across from us, just sitting there in his truck watching us. And then just before the officer came, Kobe drove up to the stop sign and turned back to the west, which would have been away from Long Hollow Road. And when he came back by, Jason Dillard was in front of him in a car that was not his. It belonged to another girl, but him and Colby was following him. And so by this time, the officer was there, and Molly's uncle said to the officer, if you want to arrest somebody, you need to go get that guy right there. He's got a $70,000 bounty on his head. And he was talking about Jason Dillard. So I know they had dealings. Jason Dillard had dealings with these people out there. So,
well, look what happened with Jesse. I mean, Jesse almost got trafficking pinned on him because he was in the car with Jason Dillard.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He left him high and dry.
I mean, he could have easily been in prison forever for drug trafficking because all the drugs that were in that car, apparently. So, I mean, if he had already done that to Jesse, what would have stopped him from doing it to Colt, doing something to Colt?
Right. I don't know. I know there's been a lot of, what do you want to call that?
Speculation?
No, like the people that have been emailing or commenting on posts about what a great person he is. And, and you can't judge somebody by their past. Well, that's not his past. That is his present. Jason is still doing some of the things that he was doing back in 2013. He's in prison right now for trafficking in fentanyl. I don't get how somebody's going to, and not only that, but all the people who had that story that Stormy told about some of the things he had done to her.
I know.
We've heard that from multiple people that have no connection to Stormy. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So
that to me is worse than trafficking the fentanyl.
Yeah. Yes.
Of course. That's predatory behavior. That's predatory behavior.
The things that he did to his girlfriend at the time that Molly and Colt went missing, that we've been told that he did to her, was just horrendous. When OSBI went to the prison to talk to her, she just couldn't say it because she's still terrified of him to this day. So,
well, plus the fact that we found out from, and I don't know if this is true or not, but Stormy said he was a CI.
You know what? I believe that is true because he had gotten picked up, I believe it was Paul's Valley. He had cut his ankle monitor, Jason had, and they found him in Paul's Valley and put him back in jail there. And then I know the OSBI went to speak to him regarding Molly and Colt. The boy cut his ankle monitor, and then when he was let out of jail with no repercussions, there was some information exchanged there, is what I was told, that allowed him to get out. So that's just very interesting. I've heard that from multiple people. That's why he never got in trouble for things, is because he ratted out people. And there was another girl I spoke to that told me, he set them up. He was staying at their house. And then he left, moved out, and the cops came in. They found some drugs in a location that had been planted in their home. And I know where she told me, but I'm trying not to say it because it's going to give away who she is.
Got it.
To him anyway, if he hears it. He set them up, and they got busted, for these drugs that were not theirs, because I believe she had gotten mad at him and asked him to leave.
But I think a lot of this is what's really upsetting and disturbing as an outsider looking in on this, is that all these girls, because they were so heavily involved in drugs, they're looked at as disposable people. Like, who cares what happens to them? That's the attitude. Like, we can drug them, rape them, tie them to a tree, like all these horrific things that I have read and heard about this case and the girls that what they've gone through because they got addicted to drugs, which unfortunately is the climate in a lot of these places that we're talking about, and must have been the social culture at the time. Obviously not everyone, but it seems like a lot of the teenagers, that's what they were doing. So because these girls were involved in drugs, it's almost like, well, they're disposable. No one's going to come looking for them. No one's going to care about them. And that's what's heartbreaking about all of this. Because
and no one's going to believe them.
Right. No one's going to believe them.
Today, a post was sent to me and said, this is, I believe the person who sent the post to me said something to the effect, this is very sick. And in that post, it was written by, I don't really want to say his name. It's
Ugh. Okay. What did he have to say?
And the post he made was disgusting. And then the comments that an individual made on the post, what goes back to what we're just sitting here talking about. And that is, he's talking about his girlfriend. And he found out she's cheating on him. And, and he puts it out there that he looked on her phone and read some of the messages that she's sent to another individual, and so on. And then there was a comment made on it that talking about these girls being hoes and treat them accordingly.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more to that comment than just that. But, that is the mentality it was then, and it still is, of a lot of those people whose names have been brought up in this case, And so it's just very disturbing to read that and know that what we know, what we've read in grand jury testimonies and what Stormy stated and all of this, and then to read that, and it puts all of their testimonies into perspective.
That's what's really disturbing about all of this, is that how women are just looked at as disposable, not even human.
Yeah. What was upsetting about Stormy's interview was when she started talking and she was reliving those moments when she was, even though she was drugged out herself, he was drugging her more. So that was the really screwed up thing. It's like she would wake up and she'd be sore and she didn't know what happened to her. And that's abhorrent. And so guys like that don't change, especially at the time. How old was he, Jason Dillard, during all this stuff? He was like probably in his late 20s, early 30s.
Yeah.
And so he's dealing with, and Stormy had to been, she was around the same age as Molly, right?
No, she's a little older. She was born in 91.
But a couple years older?
So she's like 20.
She's about 33.
Oh, she's 33 now. So.
Right, but back then, 10 years ago, she was 23. Like 21, 22, yeah.
Yeah, still a young person, very young and innocent, and whacked out on drugs. From what we've seen, I mean, everyone tells us this guy, Jason Dillard's a good-looking guy.
And that he's so nice, and that when you talk to him, he was very, very nice and very forthcoming. What happened when you talked to him?
You know what? The thing was, when I talked to him, and yes, I have talked to him, and I've seen the comments out there, he's already talked to Paula and cleared this up. No, he cleared up nothing. Absolutely nothing. Because I knew that some of the things he said was a lie. I recorded him. I know what he said. You know what I mean? Nothing got cleared up speaking to him. And when he was arrested in Pauls Valley, they were sending in somebody to give him a lie detector test. And for whatever reason, and I don't buy the explanation that I got as to why they did not administer that lie detector test, they said that the gentleman who was going to administer the test did not like the way they worded the questions. So therefore, they just didn't do it at all.
So this is about Molly.
Yes.
Interesting. Now, once again, don't take a lie detector test.
Exactly.
Just like with Jesse.
Jesse, who's willing to take a polygraph.
I mean, if Jason Dillard wants to take a polygraph, we can more than happy to send Lisa Rubakoff over there.
No, he's a very good talker. He's very accommodating. I think he's more trying to find out what you know than to give you any information. You know what I mean? So that's the impression I got of him. But there wasn't anything that he said to me that I believed because of what I've been told about him.
Yeah.
Some of the information I already knew. And I knew he had lied to me. So therefore, the rest of it was all a lie, in my opinion. So
he was lying to you about information that you already knew?
There was some, yeah. There was some things, and then there was things that he just offered up that, I listened to, but I believed it was a lie because, you're going to lie about this other stuff. You're going to lie about it all, in my opinion. So
How long after Molly and Colt went missing did he get arrested?
I don't really recall.
That's fine. I'll look it up.
Well, I know he was in jail in 2014 because Con was arrested in 2014 for the high-speed chase involving Oklahoma Highway Patrol.
Yep.
And so that was in January 2014. And during the time, that was in Love County. During that time, Con was transferred because of conflict of interest, I think. I'm not really sure the reason, but Con was transferred to Carter County Jail. And he was there for one night. That's all he ended up being there, because when he got there, Jason Dillard beat the crap out of him, along with another individual. They sent me, somebody at the jail sent me a picture of him. He got beat up pretty good at Carter County, and the NIP, and I think Joe insisted that he be moved back over to Love County.
That's interesting.
Where he could be taken care of and watched over.
Yeah.
So, not really sure what Jason's reasoning behind that was. I've been told, but I right at this moment I can't recall, because somebody that was in the jail with them told me all about it and gave me all the information as to why Jason wanted to beat him up.
Do you remember what he told you that you knew was a lie?
I don't know. No. I spoke to him, I think it was like 2017. That's when I spoke with him. It's been so long ago, I don't really recall.
To sum up everything that you've learned over the past month, what would you say you've learned from all of this, and how do you feel about the status of the case?
I've learned that people are just mean, and I think I've known that for 10 years. People can be so mean as far as the case goes. I haven't really learned anything new. I got to hear Jesse's side of the story, got to hear some things from Stormy that were interesting that I hadn't heard before. It just gives it momentum when we continue to talk about it. I really believe, I say this every time, that BIA, I have complete faith in them right now, that there's things being done. Just because we're not privy to that information doesn't mean it's not being done. I have faith that there was a quote by Vincent with the BIA in the Marietta Monitor, and I don't remember exactly the quote now, but basically was, we believe we know what happened. Now we're just got to prove it. Mm-hmm. So I think they know a lot more than what we suspect.
Oh, yeah. That's the problem. They gotta sit on all this information until they get either someone to flip some piece of information or evidence, so right. they can make a prosecution, because that's the end of the day. But It's so difficult. These cases, it's like, I feel like we're going into this JonBenet Ramsey territory where there's all these theories and potential suspects, and suspects come up and suspects go. But I think the difference with this case is that the same, like I said before, the same names keep on coming up. And when Stormy came out, and the first thing she said was, I'm pretty sure Jason Dillard had something to do with this. He was involved.
Mm-hmm. Pretty bold statement to just kind of throw out there if you don't have a feeling about something.
Yeah.
And we're not saying he did, because we don't know, but
right.
It's someone that should be looked into.
Yeah, I don't know why he has been forgotten in all this. You know what I mean? I don't understand that.
What makes sense is what Stormy told us, the fact that when she revealed that he was, because the first time I heard it, is that he's a CI, that might have been his camouflage for a long time. And that's how he was able to get out of trouble and kind of avoid being person of interest. Okay,
so Rob, you told me you spoke to somebody who told you that they ran into the FBI agent who had been on the case.
Yep.
And that he got shut down on what? What was it that he got shut down when he took it to wasn't it the AG's office?
I don't know who he took it to, but someone's in a senior position in law enforcement or but they basically...
He took it to the federal DA over in Muskogee.
Oh, is that where you found out?
No, I just remember that.
Oh, okay.
That's where it got shut down. And I don't recall his investigation, but his investigation into who? Oh, no, they just said he didn't tell him specifically. He just said, the person who told me this said, why isn't this being looked into? And
on the federal level, the FBI level, and he says, I was told to shut it down. So who those people were that told him to shut it down, but they can shut it down for a variety of reasons. There could be operations that are going on and they don't want to expose undercover people. There's a lot of reasons. And since this is such a friggin' hard case to solve, because at the end of the day, there's no bodies. There's no remains until we figure out where those remains are. And we've been told by, we heard another person who is not doing too well tell you through someone else some locations. And those locations make sense. But once again, until you find something, it's going to be extremely hard to even. And I think that's a lot of times, I don't know if they put these cases in a queue on the federal level. I know BIA is, it's in a queue too. And I know that they're doing the best they possibly can with the resources they have. And they're primarily working on Molly's case because that's who they have jurisdiction over. Colt, they don't, but they feel like, one's going to lead to the other,
right? Hopefully.
But it's just, I don't know. I mean, it's like I've talked to friends of mine who were FBI retired agents and stuff like that. And they said there's a variety of reasons why a case like that or an agent's told them to back down. It could be a variety of reasons. So we don't know. And sometimes it just doesn't work out that way. I mean, we're talking on our other podcast about these two, this guy who's the nephew of the two brothers who escaped Alcatraz. And the research that the nephew did said that the FBI just wanted to walk away from it. They knew where they were. These guys escaped Alcatraz, went down to Rio de Janeiro, and basically spent the remainder of their lives there. And they knew where they were. They just didn't want to deal with it anymore. So there's a variety of reasons why people don't pursue these things.
Right.
And there's a lot of visibility on that in the state of Oklahoma. So when this does come out, if somebody does come out and they admit something or they find evidence to connect to someone, there's going to be a lot of hell to pay on the law enforcement side to find out why this wasn't solved sooner.
Oh, absolutely.
And, a lot of those people that originally worked on these cases they're retired, or some of them have died. I mean, Marty have died, I'm not saying that he knew what was going on, but the sheriff at Lubbock County at that time after Joe Russell. But there's going to be a lot of what happened here.
Yeah, the system definitely failed in this case.
There was no system. That's the problem. There was no system. The system was thwarted from the beginning.
It's like, golly, they were these chief of police down there and the sheriffs and all this. They're just running around willy-nilly doing, all this stuff that's illegal. I don't know. It's just knowing how it was being ran and seeing it, how it was being ran. It just blows my mind that they got away with it as long as they did.
Yeah.
That went on a long, long time.
Yeah. Well, I love Cheryl Mack McCollum's, when she came down with us to Toby's place, and she spent a couple days with us when we were doing the excavation. And the more she heard about this case and from the people and stuff like that, first thing she said, she goes, "This is home cooking." That was the phrase she used, home cooking. I go, "What does that mean?" She goes, "They're all involved.
Yeah,
everybody's got a little slice." And then you have, then you have the other people that are trying to help out genuinely. Like you thank God for Ronnie Hampton.
Oh gosh.
Thank God for him that he stuck to his guns and
he did everything he could.
He did everything he could
within his ability, within the department that he is in.
Exactly. That's the constraints of the system too.
Yeah. And he's still willing to, if I have questions, and that, I always have a lot of questions about things that happened back then that, when he was involved, that he will answer for me. If he don't know the answer, then he goes through his stuff and he finds the answer for me, so he's just he's great.
Yeah,
yep.
He's a good person.
The family was smart in getting him involved because nothing that ever got done would have gotten done had Ronnie, in those early days, Con going to prison and that stuff. That wouldn't have happened without Ronnie Hampton.
Oh, no.
Oklahoma Highway Patrol.
Not at all. All right. Well, listen, thank you for talking with us today and appreciate your perspective. We're going to keep on trucking here. We got some things we got to do.
Yeah.
And people we have to hunt down.
And talk to.
Like I said before, anybody who's listening to right now, our podcast, keep those tips coming in because they're working and they're getting filtered to the right people. And even if you don't think it's important, it may connect the dots to something else.
Right. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Paula.
Thank you.
If you have any information regarding the case, please contact the BIA at www.bia.gov/BIA/OJS/missing Murder-Unit.
You can also call their hotline with tips at 1-833-560-2065 and email them directly at ojs_mmu@bia.gov.
And if you want to text them with a tip, text keyword BIAMMU and send your tip to 847-411.
Check the Partners in True Crime website for this and any additional information.
If you or anyone you know is suffering from a methamphetamine addiction, please contact the American Meth Addiction Hotline.
If you or anyone you know has been the victim of sexual abuse, please contact the National Domestic Violence Hotline. All rights reserved. This has been a production of 722 Media Content. Please visit our website where you can subscribe to the podcast, find show notes, and listen to Vi's original song, Take Me Back, written for Molly Miller.